You are asleep, completely out, drooling on your pillow, probably snoring, with zero awareness of the world around you. By every biological definition, you are helpless. Now picture something different. You are not in your bedroom. You are in a tent. A thin sheet of nylon, almost embarrassingly thin, is the only thing standing between you and a forest full of animals that could end you in seconds if they ever decided to. Lions, bears, wolves, leopards. Creatures that can hear your heartbeat from across a clearing, smell you from a mile away, and see perfectly in a darkness that leaves you blind. And there you lie, eyes shut, defenseless. And yet you wake up in the morning, every single time. Why? Think about that for a moment. A sleeping human is just meat, slow meat, quiet meat, meat that cannot fight back, cannot run, and can barely register that something is happening until it is already happening. You would expect predators to circle campsites every night like an all-you-can-eat buffet, but they do not. They almost never do, and the reason is not one thing. It is never just one thing. There are several layered explanations, each stranger than the last, and together they reveal a kind of invisible agreement between humans and the wild. An agreement older than civilization, older than agriculture, older than almost anything you think of as human history. This one goes deep. Start with the part that sounds like an ego trip, but is actually just biology. You are terrifying. Not you specifically. You, right now, reading or watching this, are probably perfectly ordinary and not particularly scary. But humans as a species to a predator are deeply evolutionarily frightening. It is not obvious from looking at us. You have no claws. You are not fast. You are not strong for your size. You cannot even see well in the dark. On paper, you are kind of a disaster as an animal. And yet, in 2019, researchers at UC Santa Cruz found something remarkable. They played recordings of human voices near mountain lions, also called pumas or cougars, in the Santa Cruz Mountains of California. Just normal voices. People talking. The pumas fled. They fled at the same rate they fled from the sound of barking dogs, and in many cases even faster. These are animals that take down full-grown deer like it is nothing. Animals that can drag a kill up a steep hill. Absolute units of predatory efficiency. And they heard a conversation and ran. It was not a fluke. The same study showed that pumas abandoned food. Food they had already killed. Food they were in the middle of eating when human voices drifted by. They left the meal on the ground and moved away from the sound. Think about what that costs. A predator giving up a kill is working for free. The calories burned to make that kill are gone, unreplenished, and they walked away anyway, because the discomfort of being near humans outweighed the pull of hunger. That result confirmed something biologists had noticed for years across continents and species. Lions in Africa's Kruger National Park move less in areas with more human activity. Tigers in India give wide berth to villages that sit in the middle of prime habitat. Jaguars in the Amazon have reshaped their movements to avoid where people regularly are. These are not animals that cannot attack. They are animals that have decided at the level of the entire species that being near us is not worth it. And the reason for that is one of the most brutal facts in natural history. We have been hunting and killing large predators for so long and so effectively that we have literally shaped their genetics. Humans have been active predators for roughly 2 million years. We hunted mammoths out of existence. We erased megafauna from whole continents. Giant sloths, woolly rhinos, saber-toothed cats, cave bears. Species that had survived ice ages vanished within a few thousand years of humans arriving. In North America, we hunted wolves to near extinction across the entire landmass. We wiped mountain lions from the whole eastern half of the continent. We shot, trapped, and poisoned predators so systematically for so long that the ones alive today descend from the animals that were most careful around us. That is not a metaphor. That is natural selection. The lions that approached human camps too boldly got killed. The wolves that preyed on settlements got hunted down. The predators that kept their distance, that treated humans as something to avoid rather than engage, survived. They reproduced. They passed that caution to their offspring. Over thousands of generations, the caution became biological. It became instinct. It became the baseline behavior of every large predator that shares space with us today. So when a leopard catches your scent in the night, somewhere deep in its nervous system, a very old alarm goes off. Not a thought, exactly. It is not consciously reflecting on human history, but an ancient, wired-in, inherited signal that says, be careful around that thing, do not engage, move on. That alarm was handed down by every ancestor of that leopard who survived a close call with humans. It is a biological memory, and it runs deep. Now let us talk about your smell. You have probably never thought about how you smell because you are surrounded by humans all the time and have completely normalized it. But to a predator with a nose anywhere from 10 times to 100,000 times more sensitive than yours, you are broadcasting an enormous, detailed, deeply strange chemical signal. Bears have a sense of smell estimated to be about 7 times stronger than a bloodhound's. Wolves can detect scents nearly 2 miles away under the right conditions. Big cats carry a specialized organ in the roof of the mouth, the Jacobson's organ, that essentially lets them taste the air and read chemical information at a level you can barely imagine. When one of these animals meets a sleeping human, it is hit with a flood of information. And much of that information is simply wrong. You smell wrong. You smell like synthetic fabrics, nylon and polyester and whatever chemicals built them. You smell like processed food, like the meal you ate hours ago and the snacks in your bag. You smell like soap and shampoo and sunscreen and bug spray. A cocktail of artificial compounds with no equivalent anywhere in the natural world. And beneath all of it, underneath the layers of modern life, you smell faintly like a primate. Which is something. But it is not the thing. Not the deer or the wildebeest or the rabbit. These predators have spent millions of years learning to recognize and hunt. A predator's hunting instinct is not generic. It is not a vague urge to kill whatever moves. It is a finely tuned system calibrated to specific prey. A wolf's predatory drive is triggered by the movement patterns of hoofed animals. A lion's strike is activated by the shape and speed and smell of the prey it has hunted thousands of times. You do not fit the pattern. You are not in the system. You are an anomaly. And anomalies trigger caution, not aggression, in most predators. Then there is the campfire effect, one of the most underrated things our species ever figured out. Fire produces a near-universal fear response across virtually all land animals. It is not learned. It is not figured out through experience. It is innate. It is ancient. Animals that feared fire survived wildfires by running. Animals that did not. The fear is so embedded that laboratory-raised animals who have never been near a flame in their lives will still show avoidance at the smell of smoke. It goes that deep into the code. Humans discovered fire somewhere between 1 and 2 million years ago, and for most of that time, sleeping beside a fire has been standard procedure. We were not doing it only for warmth or cooking. We were doing it, maybe without consciously knowing why, because it works as a repellent. A campfire does more than keep you warm. It broadcasts a message into the surrounding dark. Something dangerous is here. Something that controls fire. Something to avoid. And the predators got that message. They have been getting it for so long that it no longer needs decoding. It just triggers avoidance automatically. You figured that out before farming, before pottery, before writing, before architecture. Fire first. Smart move, honestly. Now let us tackle the biggest myth about predators, because movies have spent decades getting it completely wrong. Predators are not reckless. This matters. The image of the apex predator as a fearless, unstoppable killing machine that attacks anything in range is fiction. Pure fiction. In reality, large predators are extraordinarily careful about what they engage because they have to be. A lion does not have health insurance. A wolf does not get sick days. One serious injury, a broken leg, a deep bite, a damaged eye, can mean a slow death by starvation. In the wild, injuries do not heal at the vet. They either heal on their own while the animal somehow still has to hunt and eat, or they do not heal and the animal dies. So every decision a predator makes about whether to engage is a survival calculation. Is the caloric value of this target worth the risk of injury? Is this prey familiar enough that I know how it behaves? Is the chance of success high enough to justify the energy? A sleeping human fails this calculation in several ways at once. First, unfamiliarity. A predator is most confident attacking prey it knows. It has watched that animal hundreds of times. It knows how a zebra runs, where its blind spots are, how it kicks when it panics. It does not know how a human will respond. Humans are wildly unpredictable. You might wake up screaming, you might have tools nearby, you might have other humans nearby who respond, you might thrash in completely unexpected ways. For a predator trying to minimize risk, that uncertainty is a giant red flag. Second, the size question. Humans standing up are actually pretty big, tall, upright. And that bipedal posture, standing on two legs, makes us look larger and more imposing than most prey of equivalent weight. Researchers studying predator-prey dynamics have noted that bipedalism is itself a kind of threat display. Standing upright is what gorillas do to intimidate. It is what bears do to look threatening. A creature that walks like that all the time, as its default, reads as inherently assertive to other animals. Even asleep, the silhouette of a human shape is unusual in a way that does not say easy meal. Third, and maybe most important, why bother? There are almost always easier options. A predator with a healthy territory and a working ecosystem already has access to prey it is comfortable hunting. Prey that fits its biological template. Going after something strange, unknown, and potentially dangerous when there is a perfectly good impala or rabbit nearby makes no sense. The risk and reward simply do not balance. Here is something else that rarely comes up. Your sleep is not as deep as you think. This is one of the more astonishing facts about human biology. You sleep in cycles. You sink down into deep, slow-wave sleep, then rise back up into lighter stages, including REM, where the brain is actually quite active. And during those lighter stages, your brain stays surprisingly responsive to the world around you. External sounds still get processed. Unfamiliar noises are far more likely to break through into awareness than familiar ones. Scientists call this the sentinel function of sleep. The idea is that even while resting, animals, including humans, keep a partial watch on the environment. During light sleep, your brain is still filtering sensory input and flagging anything that seems unusual or threatening. A twig snapping loudly nearby, the sound of something large moving through brush, a shift in the air that comes with a big body approaching. These things can pull you toward waking faster than you would expect. This is no accident. The humans in our evolutionary past who slept too deeply, who were completely unresponsive to nighttime threats, were more likely to never wake up at all. The lighter sleepers, the ones who could go from unconscious to on their feet in seconds, survived and reproduced. Over hundreds of thousands of years, human sleep was tuned to stay light enough to respond to danger. We sleep lighter and in shorter cycles than most large mammals, partly because our evolutionary legacy assumed there would always be something in the dark worth waking up for. So while you feel utterly helpless when you are unconscious, you are actually running a fairly sophisticated early warning system. Not perfect, not foolproof, but present. Then there is the group factor. Humans are almost never truly alone when they camp. We travel in groups, sleep in groups, and those groups respond collectively. Predators across the animal kingdom understand group dynamics deeply, because their prey form groups too. A wildebeest in the middle of a herd is far safer than one at the edge. A fish in the center of a school is far harder to target than one that has drifted out. Predators do not just attack prey. They hunt for separation. They look for the isolated individual, the one that has fallen behind, the one cut off from the group. A camp full of sleeping humans is a group. And not just any group. A group that, the moment one member wakes and makes noise, will likely wake the others. That collective response is deeply unappealing to a predator trying to make a clean, low-risk kill. The danger of a hunt collapsing into a chaotic group defense is exactly the kind of thing predators have evolved to avoid. Now let us be honest about something, because this would be irresponsible otherwise. None of this means you are untouchable. The attacks that do happen, and they do happen, follow a consistent pattern. They almost always involve circumstances that have broken the normal rules. A predator, injured and unable to hunt its usual prey. A predator starving because its habitat has been destroyed. A predator that has had so much contact with humans, it has lost its inherited wariness, which happens disturbingly fast when animals are fed by tourists and come to associate people with food rather than danger. Or a predator that is simply old and desperate, past its prime, unable to catch what it used to. The lions of Tsavo in Kenya are the most famous example. In 1898, 2 male lions killed somewhere between 35 and 135 railway workers over about 9 months. The records disagree on the number, and the legend grew in the retelling. But what often gets left out is that these were unusual lions. Both were maneless, which is atypical. One had severe dental damage that likely made its normal prey much harder to hunt. They were not representative of lion behavior. They were exceptions, created by exceptional circumstances. The Champawat tiger, blamed for an estimated 436 deaths in India and Nepal in the early 1900s, was later found by the hunter Jim Corbett to have been shot in the mouth at some earlier point, shattering 2 of its canine teeth. It could no longer hunt its natural prey effectively. Pushed by injury and then by habitat loss, it turned to the only prey that was consistently available and physically manageable. The pattern repeats across nearly every documented case of large predator attacks on humans at rest. Something broke. The normal calculation changed. The inherited caution got overridden by desperation, which means the rule holds almost universally as long as the ecosystem is intact, the predator is healthy, and the humans have not scrambled the normal signals by leaving food out, approaching wildlife, or skipping the campfire because it seemed unnecessary. There is one last layer, and I saved it for the end because it is genuinely the most mind-bending part. We have been so effective at making the natural world afraid of us that we are now causing problems we never anticipated. That same 2019 UC Santa Cruz study did not just document that pumas fear humans. It documented that the fear cascades through the entire food web in ways that are hard to fully control. When pumas avoid areas where humans are active, the deer there face less predation. Deer populations rise. Those deer overgraze the vegetation. Meanwhile, mid-sized predators, coyotes, bobcats, foxes also retreat from humans. So the rodent populations they normally keep in check begin to swell. Everything shifts, and it shifts because of us, because of our presence. Because the fear we have generated over millennia radiates outward through the ecosystem like a signal, we change the behavior of every predator layer on the continent without ever directly meeting most of those animals. Just by being there. Just by being the thing evolution told them to fear. One species. One inherited fear. Rippling across the entire living world. The most dangerous animal on the planet is the one that figured out fire before it figured out everything else. The one that has been shaping ecosystems not only through what it eats, but through what it makes other things afraid to eat. The one that sleeps light, travels in groups, and carries 10,000 generations of successful survival in its DNA. That is you. That is what you are. So the next time you are lying in a tent in the middle of nowhere, listening to the sounds of the dark beyond that thin nylon wall, and you feel a little pulse of ancient anxiety, that is fine. That feeling kept your ancestors alive. But the thing outside the tent is not coming in. By every biological definition, it is the one that has decided you are best left alone. It knows better.